Chums, welcome back to a Game with Chums podcast. I am your host for this episode, the glorious, the immaculate, the bearded, the big dick Paul. Paulus, me. That's me. Yeah.
Really, you struggled to get there, but you got there in the end.
Yeah. As you can hear, and if you're watching, as you can see, my glorious host, the immaculate, well-groomed,
Exceptionally well groomed,
exceptionally well ginger bearded co-presenter, the glorious Mr. Rawls. Mr. Rawls, how you been? What you been up to? What you've been doing since the last time we spoke? Tell me about your life, every little single detail.
Every tiny detail. Do not spare a single.
Yeah.
What have I been doing? Working mostly. I started a new job recently. I'm just really looking forward to getting paid. I haven't been paid yet, so that'll be nice. But I did buy a new anime figure because in anticipation of getting paid, that was very expensive. That will probably be turning up in months. Because I used a website I haven't used before called Solaris Japan, because they were the only ones that had it. And the only shipping available was their saver shipping, which is 2 to 4 months. So God knows when it's going to turn up.
Christmas.
But yeah, might be a Christmas present for me. But I'll do a video when it does turn up, because it's a really cool looking figure and it looks huge. And I saw it on, there's a guy on YouTube called the Kiseki Nut. He does like Falcom videos about Falcom games, and I saw him. He got it months ago. I was like, that looks amazing. And I kept it open on a tab on my phone. I was like, if I ever have money, I'm buying that. Now I started this new job. I'm like, right, now's the time. Shit, 4 months. So yeah, it's going to be a while. But other than that, I've been just playing a bit on my Steam Deck. I installed Ubisoft Connect so I could continue my Assassin's Creed Odyssey playthrough, which I hadn't touched in about a year. I got to a part where you kind of, I was doing quite a lot of exploring and side questing because I was just really enjoying the world. And I got to a part where all of my next story quests were like 5 levels above me, and I was just like, fuck this game. And I just put it aside for ages because, like I say, I was doing a lot of side stuff, but suddenly I was like 5 levels too low for the story. So I was like, this is ridiculous. So I installed it on my Steam Deck just kind of out of interest to see how it would run. It actually runs really well. So I've just been picking that up again recently. I've just played like 10 hours on it over the last week and a bit, just kind of getting up to level and just getting back used to the game again. So yeah, just been doing that, continuing to watch Fruits Basket on Crunchyroll, and using my new long commute to watch Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans on my phone. So I was like, I could watch some anime on my commute, but I can't stream anything because I don't have a signal for most of the damn commute. So I thought, I'll watch something on Netflix because I can just download it. And I had Iron-Blooded Orphans on my to-do list for a while, so I've been watching that. So that's pretty good so far. Reminds me a lot of Old Noah Zero, which I think came out about the same time. They seem very similar. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. But that's about all I'm doing. What about you, Paul? What have you been up to?
Listen, don't get so personal, man. Okay. Let's move on. Now, I've been streaming, also working, but with same old, working for the evil overlords. I won't say who, but
if you've listened to the podcast before, you probably know who Paul works for. So.
Yeah, streaming. I've been streaming a lot of Dragon Age Origins. I've forgotten how good it is. I've forgotten how much of an RPG it is, because like modern RPGs are so streamlined and hold your handy, and the dialogue.
Don't really give a shit about stats.
Yeah, like this, you got like stats and talents,
dice rolls and stuff.
Yeah, it's very, very like it is an RPG in Dungeons and Dragons sort of mold, and the dialogue is very text heavy, and it doesn't doesn't give you the correct options to pick like they do with, say, Mass Effect and the later Dragon Age games. But yeah, I've been playing that, man. I've been enjoying it. I streamed a bit earlier before we started recording this podcast. I'm in the bit where I'm trying to recruit the elves. So I'm playing through that
The
part.
Dalish camp.
The Dalish, yeah. And yeah, man, I've also been watching. I've been watching anime as well. I completed the My Dress Up Darling. It's only 12 episodes. Yeah, it's pretty good. I don't think it's as good as everyone says it is, but it's pretty good. So I've been watching that and Spy Family, which is good. I really like that. And I started watching Odd Taxi because I heard a lot of good things about it. So I thought might as well just. It's been on my to do list on Crunchyroll, my to watch list. And yeah, I thought might as well just get through it, and it's really good, man. Really good. I can see why people liked it. It's one of those anime that people liked, but it wasn't really talked about as much. You know what I mean? But people who have watched it say it's really good, and I agree, it's really good, man. But yeah, that's all
I'll
I've been
stick it
doing.
on my watch list.
Yeah, stick it on your watch list, mate. It's on Crunchyroll. Give it a watch. But unfortunately, I'll be watching it dubbed, and because on my play, it just automatically played in dubbed. So I was like, all right, fuck it. I could just have it. If I have work coming in, I can have it sort of. I could hear the dialogue, and you know. So I just did that, and yeah, the dub is not too bad actually. So
yeah, dubs these days are actually pretty decent. I remember years back, like when we both first started watching anime, how bad dubs were.
yeah,
Like the Evangelion dub is like legendarily bad. But then I didn't watch any dubbed anime for probably since then. And then when Kill la Kill came out, I watched that and I tried to watch it subbed as I would any other anime. And it moves so fast and there's constantly text all over the screen that I just couldn't keep up. So I was constantly rewinding it to try and read different bits of text. So I was like, oh, screw it, I'm just going to watch it dubbed. And the dub for that is really good. Like, anime dubs have come a long way. They're generally pretty good now. And we talked about this kind of tangentially when we did our podcast about video game voice actors, because a lot of them, especially in like JRPGs and that, come from like the anime industry. So I think that's kind of half the reason why anime dubs are actually really good now, because these people doing them have just got a ton of experience from doing loads of anime, loads of video games and everything, and they're just getting better all the time.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's much better. Yeah, so what I've been doing, man. But if we're gonna leave out the news because the news kind of correlates with our main topic. It all sort of blends in because obviously it's been, if you've been living under a rock or you've not got access to the internet or anything, it's just,
in which case, how are you listening to this?
How are you listening to it? It's the second annual Summer Games Festival. It was a brainchild of, I think, Jeff Keighley. He's really pushing it. Last year's and what's the word for first? There's a particular word, like it's like a
Premiere?
inaugural Summer Games Fest, and it was pretty pants. And this year,
It was pants.
This year, no E3 this year again. So yeah, Summer Games Fest is in its place, and it's been interesting. I still don't really get Summer Games Festival. I don't really think it should be under this umbrella. It's just like when all these studios and developers just sort of bring out their own sort of panel, own sort of like conferences. But yeah, man, there's a lot to talk about. I mean, like, where could we start? I mean, there was a state of play for PlayStation. Again, I've done reaction videos for the key showcases. PlayStation 1, the Xbox One, obviously, and also the Final Fantasy stream. It wasn't really a showcase. It was a Final Fantasy VII 25th
celebration.
25th celebration. It was only like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. But yeah, I mean, like, let's start with the state of play. Have you watched it? I believe you have, haven't you?
I watched it live and I've forgotten it almost entirely at this point. Excellent. It was a couple of weeks ago now, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think when we last recorded the podcast, it was on that week, the week after. So it's been a while since I've watched it, and I did a video for it. But there was obviously like some announcements, like the Resident Evil 4 remake. Now that's been officially unveiled, and there was a little gameplay trailer. Well, not was it gameplay? It was just a little teaser
kind of
trailer.
A mix of gameplay and some very quick gameplay clips, weren't there?
Yeah, I mean, like
there was one in the Capcom showcase that was on like a few days ago as well. So I'm kind of mixing the trailers up in my head because they were both slightly different.
There was an extended one where the developers talked about it as well.
Mm.
The Capcom, they were talking about it, and yeah, again, they're remaking probably the strongest game out of the series, and I kind of don't think it needs a remake personally. But again, they're trying to uniform the games together ever since the success of Resident Evil 2 remake.
And there was a remake,
really good remake. So they're trying to uniform it. Even the logos are all very uniformed, with the Resident and the Evil, or they're all highlighted in red and they're very uniformed. So they're trying to keep a consistency with that. So they're trying to sort of keep the identity consistent, because like from the original games to the current game, they're all quite wildly all over the place tonally and gameplay wise. So I think they're trying to keep it all more like a sort of structured, like in a sort of like cohesive sort of story in terms
like they're actually sequels to one another rather than just
so it's like
different games.
Obviously, like the story, gameplay, and the tone of it, it's all like sort of similar. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm happy with that, because I thought the charm of the fourth game was its own sort of like uniqueness and sort of campiness and tongue in cheek. And what they definitely seem to have done is keep it more serious and more grounded, like they have for the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes.
Yeah, we haven't seen much of it yet, but it does seem like they're going for a more grounded vibe.
Yeah.
Hopefully some of the campy over-the-top stuff is still in there, because that is, like you said, kind of an important part of the original game. But we'll have to wait till we see more of it, I think.
I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing the regenerators in that new engine, so that'll be terrifying when they come. Yeah. They were pretty scary in the original game.
I mean, visually, from what we've seen, it looks amazing, but 2 and 3 looked amazing as well, so it's not a big surprise. Mm-hmm. But yeah, was that the big announcement at State of Play? I remember that was one of the main ones. I remember coming away from the State of Play thinking it was a good show. I just can't remember what else was in it.
Yeah, there was
but they showed Exo Primal a bit, but
there was a call of not Call of Cthulhu, that new
Dead Callisto Space Protocol. Yeah,
same developers. I mean, that pretty much is Dead Space. I was like, this is Dead Space. This is Dead Space. It looks good, but I was like, yeah, this is definitely Dead Space. I kind of see them doing that just because like of the way they were treated by EA, and now EA are remaking Dead Space. So it's I'm happy with them doing it. They're basically well, this is our Dead Space. We made the good game. We can't. It's everything. It's Dead Space in everything but name.
Yeah, it looks good. Visually, it looks good as well. Mm-hmm. And they showed that at the Jeff Keighley's own stream as well, didn't they? Because that's the thing with this Summer Games Fest thing. I think like Keighley does his own kind of showcase, but then everything else kind of gets lumped under the umbrella. And I wonder if like this is actually the company saying, yeah, you can put us under your umbrella, or if Jeff's just like, this is happening close to my thing, I'm going to say that's Summer Games Fest.
Yeah, I get a feeling that it is kind of
feels like it's the latter.
Yeah. What? Anything else in this? There was, and I can't think of anything. I know there was like another big announcement in the State of Play, but I can't.
I think we'd have done our research, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, my mind is like a bit frazzled, so I can't. What was the other big reveal in there? Like, please. I know the Last of Us the Last of Us Part 1 remake. That was like that got leaked.
That was at Keighley's show.
Keighley's, but didn't that get leaked or something?
It got leaked out.
Mm.
Well, I mean, it had been announced. Not announced. It was
Rumored to be.
it was all but known about because of, I think, Jason Schreier wrote an article about it um, ages ago. So
Mm-hmm.
people knew it was coming, but they didn't really know much about it.
Mm.
But then, yeah, it was the one final thing at Jeff Keighley's show, wasn't it? If I remember correctly.
Oh, I didn't see that, so
But okay, so Resident Evil 4 remake was announced at the State of Play, as we've discussed.
yeah,
Spider-Man remastered coming to PC,
yeah,
which I'm quite happy about
yeah,
because I bought it and then I never played it and then I gave my PS4 away. So
yeah,
I've been wanting that to come to PC.
yeah.
Um,
I think
Horizon Call of the
I
Mountain VR game they showed off.
yeah, I think we have spoken about this on our last podcast.
I think we did.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, so I think we
So
should
I
just
just kind of rushed through it.
yeah, but I think
Um,
we've gone over most of this. Should we just move on to the next big thing, which is pretty much one of the biggest talks of the internet, especially on Twitter. A lot of people had a lot of comments to say about that. Some good and some not so good. But yeah, we'll move on from the state of play because I do remember we did actually speak
yeah,
about
I'm
that
pretty
a
sure
lot.
we did a whole
Yeah,
podcast about
yeah,
it.
because I remember
Now that I'm looking through it and going,
yeah,
wait, we talked about this.
yeah, because I remember I talking about Stray, so I was like, yeah, I think we did. So yeah, we'll move on with that, man. Otherwise, we'll just be repeating ourselves. But yeah, that was the state of play. There was other streams from other companies, small streams, but none of them really that interesting. I want to say. But I think the big one, which everyone was the most interested, was the Xbox Bethesda showcase. Yeah, I mean, what
So
was your?
before we dive into it, what did you think of it?
That's what I was going to ask you. I'm the host, so I'm going to ask
Oh,
you.
okay.
Yeah,
All right, chill
yeah.
out.
I was going to
Jesus.
go. I was going to go. What was your overall thoughts? But you just jumped right in there, man. But let's just. What would you say? Do you think it was good, or we'll go into it a bit? But let's just
Yeah.
get your sort of
I
idea.
think it was decent. It was a good show. They had some good stuff like Starfield getting a proper good look, which we'll talk about, I guess. And Starfield and Redfall basically were the two games I was looking forward to seeing, and they showed pretty meaty gameplay stuff of both of those. So I was quite happy with that.
Yeah.
There was I did expect more because I follow the Xbox thread on Reset Era, and it's just like constantly like pulling up all the rumors and like trawling through LinkedIn posts to find out what people are working on and stuff.
Yeah.
So you follow that thread, you know what pretty much every studio under Microsoft is working on.
Yeah.
But there were some things that I was surprised didn't show up. Like Avowed, I thought was definitely going to be there.
I mean, like, yeah, like we could go into that a bit more. I just want to say, like, did you think it was good?
I think it was good,
okay.
but it could have been better. It felt like there were a few things that really should have been there.
Okay, I'll answer the same my question as well. I thought if I was to give it marks out of 10, I'll probably give it a 7. I was, like everyone, was expecting more to be shown, but they did show Whet My Appetite. I just wish they would have showed me more. It kind of felt like an appetizer to them, like before you get the main course, and you didn't get the main course. So it kind of left you wanting more, which is always a thing with Xbox is showcases. I always feel like because they've got so much going on, you want to see more what they got because there's so many games that they're developing, and it did what I thought it was going to do. Showed quite a few games, a lot of indie games, but when it came to their big games, they didn't show as much. But like you said, they did show Starfield. But overall, yeah, I'll give it a 7. It may be even a 6.5, but it wasn't bad. It just left me wanting more.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, but like, let's get into it, man. Like, right, what was like you said the highlights for you were Redfall and Starfield. Was there anything else in there that you liked that stood out?
The Persona announcements, because I've been
that was good.
Persona people have been wanting Persona to come to Xbox for years, and like me too. Like I played a bit. I played like a handful of hours of Persona 3 Portable on my Vita. I played Persona 4 Golden to completion on my Vita. I bought Persona 5 and then never played it because I was just like, my PS4 is rarely plugged in, and it's like a 100-hour game, which never got around to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been like, yeah, it'd be nice if
Yeah.
Persona came to Xbox, but I can't see it ever happening.
It was always,
and now it has.
It's always one of those things. Like I think we discussed it like off stream and to ourselves, like why hasn't Atlas put these games on there? Because they're not like exclusive. They just never put them on there. Then maybe they didn't think there was a market for them. Because I saw like Atlas has put games on the Xbox, but they don't put everything on there. Like I think the Catherine sequel didn't get put on there.
Catherine, it was like a remake, wasn't it? Like
Remake,
an expanded remake.
Sorry, yeah, the remake.
Yeah.
That didn't.
The original was on the 360, but that one didn't come across.
Yeah.
I think the last Atlas game that came to Xbox was one of the Persona 4 fighting games, like a decade ago.
Strikers, was it, or something like that?
No, the Arena Ultimax, I think.
All right, yeah. Strikers didn't even come out on Xbox, did it?
Now I am actually wondering if that is going to come across, because that is effectively a sequel to Persona 5. So I'm wondering if that'll actually make the jump now.
Yeah, the thing is, it's the Persona. I thought it was going to be the vanilla Persona, but it's Persona 5 Royale, which I've not played. I've only got the original on PlayStation 4.
Which is why, if you watched Paul's reaction video when it was announced, and he looked surprisingly pissed off, was because he's been playing the vanilla game for like a year.
Now I'm like, I'm gonna have to go and play
start
again with Royal, because I'm definitely gonna buy it because I want to support it. I'm gonna definitely buy a physical copy. I'll probably buy a copy of each one of them, to be honest. I know I own all three of those games. I own the PS Persona 3 on my PSP. I own that one, and I own Golden on Vita, and I own the Persona 5 on PlayStation 4. But I probably will buy all three just to have them, because that doesn't. This is big.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty big.
It looks like a novelty, isn't it?
Yeah. So I want to buy them and support it. So they will release hopefully Persona 6 on Xbox. But I want to say, like, I'm very surprised, and I think they missed a trick in that not to release it on Switch, because those games will be really good on handheld.
I'm extreme. Like when people talked about, because it was like, the guy from Xbox Era podcast, Nick, the Aussie guy, he's been saying for like a year that Persona is definitely happening.
Yeah.
And that's where basically the rumors have come from over the last sort of year or so, or maybe even 2 years. And I've always been like, if they're not on Switch, they're not going to come to Xbox, because it's like, that makes no sense. Like, Switch is the only console doing well in Japan. Like, the PS5 isn't doing particularly well. The Xbox is doing even worse, even though it's doing better than the Xbox One did. The Switch is doing gangbusters in Japan, and if Atlas can't even be bothered to put it on that in their home territory, then there's no way it's coming to Xbox. And here I have been proven wrong. Happy to be so. So it's still mental they're not going to Switch, but
I mean, Phil Spencer did talk about him wanting to push into the Japanese market and have that support for Japanese games on Xbox. Like last gen, it was just non-existent. Barely anything. There was stuff on there, but there was nothing. I think they are trying to push a bit more to appeal to Japanese gamers and developers to put their games on there, so saying that people will buy them. Because I think, speaking of Japanese developers, and we're moving on from Persona, another not a surprise, because it was a rumor that Hideo Kojima's next game will be an Xbox exclusive. And there was always a rumor going around that he will do one for PlayStation and one for Xbox. And now it's proven to be true. He announced that his next game will be coming to the Xbox and PC. And we don't know much about it, but there's been rumors it's going to be a horror game. And it's going to be using the power of xCloud. And it's always a game that he wanted to make, apparently. But
this is another one that was like rumored for like over a year by Jeff Grubb, I think, originally. And when Jeff Grubb talked about it, and I was like, Jeff Grubb knows what he's talking about, I believe it. And then the longer it went on with literally no one else corroborating it, I was like, maybe it isn't true. Maybe it fell through. Maybe it's not happening. And then like, well, it is happening.
It is happening. Yeah. And I'm for one, I'm very happy about that, because like Kojima always said, he wants his studio to be independent. He wants to be able to work with whoever he wants, do whatever he wants. He wants essentially to be in control, his own boss. That's what kind of
Who
like,
can blame him after what
yeah,
happened with Konami?
yeah. So yeah, like maybe like this game he's been working on, it's going to be a horror game. I can't remember. There was a title announced, or a rumored a title. I can't remember for the life of me what it was. Overdose, right? He's got this actress is been rumored to be the lead, and I can't remember.
Margaret Qualley.
Yeah, so
who was also in Death Stranding, I think.
right.
I own Death Stranding. I haven't played it yet.
You won't be able to. Oh, you got it on PC, haven't you?
I got it on PC, yeah.
Yeah. I
But
might
it's
get
like
that on PC.
50 hours long, which is why I haven't played it yet.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
feels like 20 hours. I'd have completed it by now.
let's talk about that Kojima announcement, because boy, oh boy, it's good for Xbox fans, but the PlayStation people weren't happy. I mean, their fans, they released a statement saying that it's having to state that
Don't worry, we're still going to work with PlayStation.
so we still have a good working relationship with PlayStation. I'm like, yeah, no shit, you're making Death Stranding too. So what's the big deal? Like, people were outraged, and like there was a public outcry. So much so that Kojima Studios Productions had to release a statement online to reassure the fans that they still will make games for PlayStation, which they are, because they're going to make Death Stranding 2. That's been rumored, but I think Norman Reedus
basically confirmed it, didn't he?
So I was just like, when I saw that, I was just like, that's so typical. Whenever Xbox do these sort of deals, it happened with like when they get exclusive on a big title, people get outraged and go, "Oh my god, you're not working with PlayStation!" And then there's a big like media flaw, and of course statements had to be made. I think pretty sure like media outlets were like, "Oh my god, what's going on?" Well, they're not working with some released tweets saying, "Oh, do not worry, Kojima still will be working with PlayStation." Oh, of course he is. Cool. To be fair, he did ask for his banner to be removed from the PlayStation Studios post, because he's like, we're not owned by PlayStation, we're independent. So that, I remember that happened. So I was just like, what's the big like? Oh, it's kind of typical that this would happen with anything to do with Xbox.
Listen, Paul, I don't think you're taking this seriously enough. There was a change.org petition.
Okay, I heard about that. Yeah. I mean, what do you think about this, man? I mean, I'm pretty sure I think I know what your answer's going to be. Pretty similar to mine.
Yeah,
but,
I think it's a good thing. Like, Kojima's a madman.
Oh, he's insane.
I'm very interested to see what he can do. Like I say, I haven't played Death Stranding yet, but I am interested to play it. That's why I bought it at launch when it came to the Epic Game Store. When they had a sale on, I got a £10 off coupon. But I bought it because I was like, I'm interested in it. I want to see what it's like, because it looks mad, even though it's like a delivery simulator. It still looks mad. But I just haven't got around to it because of people telling me it's 50 hours long, and I'm kind of over 50-hour-long games. But he always, at the very least, makes interesting games. Like Metal Gear Solid 4 was in many ways a complete mess, but it was an incredibly compelling mess. Like I couldn't tear my eyes away from the screenplay in that game, and like the whole way through, you're like, this is insane, but I'm going to continue.
I think, like, in terms of Kojima's games, I think Snake Eater is probably the most coherent story. It's pretty much a straightforward
like a normal video game.
Yeah, it's just pretty much like a normal video game, but with a sort of like pretty basic plot. You know, like all these other ones got these mad twists and stuff like that, nano machines and all that. But Snake Eater is pretty straightforward. I know it has like
the original Metal Gear Solid is pretty straightforward as well, isn't it? It's kind of like a Hollywood action movie.
Yeah. But Snake Eater, like his current modern ones, is pretty straightforward, and there are wacky characters like there is in other ones, but it's not like so convoluted. It's pretty like just like like do you know what I mean? You're the hero, like you got a you're one of your mentors, like working with the bad. I don't want to give the plot away, but anyway, yeah. But
spoilers for like a 15-year-old game or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, like it came out on the PlayStation 2 and Xbox, didn't it?
No, just PS2, I think.
No, there was a version of that Snake.
Oh, there wasn't there? Yeah, Substance, was it?
Yeah. Now, Substance was thingy, wasn't it? Was Metal Gear 2.
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
It was something similar.
yeah. I know there was a
Subsistence or
yeah,
something.
yeah. There was a version that came out. Should I carry on talking while you look that up?
Yeah, you should
So,
crack right on.
I'm just cover for Raws while he's looking that up. But yeah, man, like Kojima's working with PlayStation. I'm very happy. Obviously, this is early days, man. There was nothing to show, just old Kojima there on camera, saying hello
Going,
and
I feel.
yes. And it's like very excited to be working with Xbox. It's been my dream. Um, if it's anything like PT, which if it is, that's going to piss off a lot of people.
If it
Like,
is, you're going to need to buy new pants.
yeah,
PT was terrifying.
terrifying, and yeah. So, what was the name of it? Did you find out? Was it just called
It
Sneaky?
was called Subsistence, but it was only on PS2. It didn't
Oh,
release on Xbox until the HD collection on
right.
360.
That might be what I'm thinking. That's what we're thinking of. But yeah, man, like right. Let's talk a bit more about what was shown at Bethesda's showcase. I mean, like Redfall. What did you think? It was first
I
time
think
we
it
had a lot.
looks really fun. Like
Mhm.
it's one of the games I'm most interested in at the moment because I really like Arcane. Like when Microsoft announced they were buying Bethesda, one of the things for me was like, holy shit, Arcane.
Mm.
I love Arcane's games. So I've been really wanting to see gameplay of it since it was announced last. It was last year E3 time, wasn't it, when it was
Yeah,
announced?
yeah.
And it was supposed to be out this summer, and it got both that and Starfield got pushed back just before this year's showcase, which is a shame. But
Yeah, speaking of like the delays, that's added more fuel, especially after the showcase to the fire of detractors and haters. But anyway, we'll get along. We'll get to that. But yeah,
yeah,
like,
I thought it looked really fun. What did you think of it? Because
I
you're
mean,
not generally into sort of more co-op kind of games.
um, I don't know. Like, would I say me? Not so much, but I'm quite looking forward to playing it. A lot of people was afraid it would be just like another Left 4 Dead clone, or Back for Blood, that terrible uh, game that got like shit on.
Yeah, we
But
didn't enjoy it.
but this looks different. It looks more interesting. The only thing is, I think people were a bit upset that the progression is tied to the host. So that kind of sucks. But you will be playing that in co-op, so I think that's the point. The whole point of that game. So yeah, but from what I've seen, it looks pretty decent, man. It looks good. I mean, Arcane, they might not have like best-selling games, but the games they do release are really like critically acclaimed and loved.
Mm.
It's just a shame that their games just never really like hit the big money, because they make games like Prey and Dishonored, and no one can say they're bad games. They're
They're
brilliant games.
amazing games.
Yeah, it's just never like they don't get the same sort of like attention, and people don't buy it as much as say like other big games, which is a bloody shame. But I'm looking forward to Redfall. I will definitely be playing. We'll be getting that. Speaking of which, everything's coming out on all the games announced. I think it's coming out on Game Pass. That subscription service that's apparently ruining the games
Including
forever.
Hollow Knight Silksong, which was kind of a bit of a megaton
Yeah, I mean that came
in
out of
some
nowhere, didn't it?
sectors. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, that's
I
pretty.
will admit at this point I haven't played Hollow Knight. I played like 2 hours of it and I didn't enjoy it.
Ah,
So for
but
me,
not
it was
every
just
not
like,
every
okay.
game's for everyone,
Well, no,
You know what I mean? So,
there's obviously something there. Like tons of people love that game, so I'm
hmm
not gonna
hmm
shit on it. It's just not for me.
hmm
But yeah, that announcement is a bit of a megaton, I think, especially because it's been MIA for quite a while.
hmm
It was originally announced for Switch, and then it hasn't been seen for a good while, and then suddenly it's at the Xbox show and it's coming to Game Pass day one. So it was
yeah,
well, it would have been a surprise if it hadn't been leaked out by the snitch beforehand. But
yeah.
I'm sure for
But
people that weren't plugged into the internet all day every day, it was a surprise.
yeah, cool. All right. Oh fuck! Just not my mic. So yeah. Any other games that caught your attention, though, dear faithful Roars?
I'm struggling to remember, to be honest, because it
Well,
was
there's quite a lot.
constantly, it was like game. And I was
Yeah,
like, okay,
I mean,
calm down.
there was the Forza Sport.
Motorsport, yeah.
Yeah, that got announced. I'm not really a big driving racing game enthusiast, but that looked
I
good.
mean, it looked amazing
It
visually.
looked really good. Yeah, yeah. And there was like a DLC. I think it was for the what was that?
Flight sim.
No, not flights. Oh, there was a Pelican for that in Halo, but no, for the racing game, I think it was
Oh right, yeah, for Horizon 5,
yeah,
the Hot Wheels
Hot
expansion.
Wheels. That looks fun.
Does
That looks
look
really
good.
fun. Yeah.
The Hot Wheels expansion in 3 was really good. So
Mhm.
but yeah, like I'm not really into racing games other than like I'll play a bit of Horizon when the new Horizon launches because it's just fun just to tear around an open world.
Mm.
But like
I,
Forza
I I
Motorsport,
I really like Forza Horizon. I think that's really good, man. Like you say, it's not a proper racing game. You can just open world, go wherever you want, and participate. So it's so fun, man. Just lose yourself in that world of just racing around.
crashing into other players.
Oh yeah, I mean the one that was set in the UK was pretty good. I mean you can drive from one end to another. I know it's not exactly to scale, obviously, but it's still pretty detailed, man. So yeah,
Edinburgh was pretty cool. It reminded me a bit of PGR in Forza Horizon 4.
yeah.
But yeah, the Horizon games are great, but Motorsport isn't really for me, to be honest. But visually, it looked fantastic.
Absolutely
And
fantastic.
they've come out and said it will have like ray tracing during gameplay as well, which is pretty interesting. So, given it's on Game Pass, I'll probably load it up for a race just to see how it looks, because like sim or circuit races are always like visual benchmarks. I bought Forza Motorsport 5 when the Xbox One came out, as that was a launch title, and I was just like, it's a new gen, I need a racing game to see how good it can look. I played like an hour of it and haven't touched it since.
Can I quickly? We'll just go back to the Persona announcement. Is there going to be physical copies? Because I know that's coming out of Game Pass.
We don't know yet.
Don't know yet. So I was just thinking,
I'm leaning towards probably not, but I guess we'll see.
We'll see.
A lot of the Japanese stuff that comes to Xbox these days tends to be digital only, which is a bit of a shame.
I would think like something that big, because that's a big title to land on Xbox, on Game Pass as well. Not to have a physical release of it just seems a bit like, because I would like to have a physical copy of those games.
Yeah, I'd buy them.
Yeah,
physically.
Yeah, but yeah, I was just thinking that the wheels were turning in my head. I was like, wait, I don't think there is going to be a physical copy, because like when it comes to Game Pass, they, like you say, with Japanese games, sometimes they never have a physical copy. But yes, Atlas, if you're listening to this, man, release some physical copies, because you got 2 punters right here. Or buy them. Yeah.
You got guaranteed 2 copies sold.
Yeah, mate, you'll make a good like $120 from that if you release.
Actually, I know at least one other person that would buy them. So you got three guaranteed sales right here.
Free the monies. Phil Spencer's not the only one who can chuck money around.
We can't chuck 70 billion around, but we can chuck 70 quid.
No, yeah. But yeah, like before we talk about what was missing from the showcase, I know there was many more games, but a lot of them were like sort of indie games, small sort of games, sort of AA games. But I think the main thing that everyone wanted to see, and what they ended the show on, was the gameplay unveiling of Starfield. And now, Mr. Ross, there was a lot of negativity, a lot of positivity, but we can say it was divisive and polarizing. And
we can.
I'm on the fence. I'm on the side of I really liked it. A lot of people, a lot of fans, a lot of game journalists, which I've come to expect whenever Xbox unveils something, that there's always going to be more sort of, I liked it, but that sort of reaction. And whatever game get Xbox Studios release now, AAA games or anything, you always get that same reaction. A lot of people made videos about their what they thought of the gameplay. Some of it positive, a lot of it, quite a lot of it was negative. But what did you think, man? Like, let's just get your thoughts, and then we'll talk about like what other people's thoughts were. What did you think?
I thought it looked good. Like visually speaking, I mean, obviously, it's the best looking game Bethesda have ever made. I admit I haven't watched any of the like anyone's videos reacting to it or anything.
No, we'll talk about that in a minute, but we'll
so
just
I don't
get your.
really know what others have been saying.
Let's just get your opinion.
But yeah, I think it looks good. It's a Bethesda open world Bethesda RPG, and we don't get them very often. The last one was
Fallout.
7 years ago.
Fallout
4.
Yeah.
And like people like to clown on how they look and that they have bugs and that, but they're the only games that do what they do. Like it's not just that it's an open world RPG; it's that the systems allow for like emergent gameplay. Like in Skyrim, I can't think of another game you can do this in, maybe other than maybe another Bethesda game. But the way that like NPCs' perception of you is based on line of sight, so you can put a bucket on someone's head and then steal all their stuff, and they don't know you've stolen it. Stuff like that. It's just all this emergent stuff. They're kind of like open world RPGs mixed with an immersive sim, which is why I think Arcane being under the Bethesda umbrella made sense, because they make games with quite a similar kind of emergent gameplay focus.
Yeah.
But it's not like you can't just like point at, say, Horizon Forbidden West and go, these are the same. They're both open world RPGs. There's a level of interactivity with the world in Bethesda's games that no other games are really doing.
Yeah.
One thing I will say is when they pulled out a laser and started shooting some rocks to farm materials, I was like, oh, it's No Man's Sky with a budget.
Yeah. That's what I was going to go on about after when we give our thoughts.
I know people have said that, but I had that similar reaction myself, so I'm not going to like get at people for saying that because I thought the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, like, but overall, you liked it. Yeah,
I thought it looked good. Yeah, I'm excited for it. It's a new Bethesda RPG. Their first new IP, a quarter of a decade.
Yep.
A quarter of a century, even.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked what they shown, and I know they showed more in the extended showcase. I didn't watch that, but I know they did show more.
I haven't seen it myself.
But from what I've seen, I really like it. Like you say, it's a Bethesda game. I got a lot of sort of Mass Effect vibes off it when I saw the city, because I looked at the city that they showed, your main hub. I can't remember what it's called. It's one of the
Aquila, I think.
Yeah, it's the Explorers city, the main faction. And I thought, very Mass Effect-esque, because I noticed like on some of the artwork and concept art of Mass Effect that they use that sort of similar sort of look.
Yeah, it's all kind of cribbing from Sid Mead. Did a lot of like futuristic stuff in the 50s, I think, which a lot of sci-fi film, TV, and video games have taken from Sid Mead, and like Mass Effect in particular is very heavily Sid Mead inspired, so it's not surprising to see Starfield kind of looking similar in some ways. I remember my dad had a Sid Mead book when I was growing up. I used to look through it and just think everything looked amazing. It's one of the main reasons why I was so excited when Mass Effect was announced, because I was like, oh wow, this looks like that book my dad's got. But yeah, I think like a lot of his stuff went into like Blade Runner as well.
Yeah. Apparently,
which is also kind of there's another city they show in their trailer that looks very Blade Runner-y in Starfield as well.
Probably that pirate city, isn't it? Or no, there is no. Sorry, there was. It wasn't really It wasn't really explored. It was just sort of showing, wasn't it?
Yeah, you just got a quick glimpse of it. I think.
Yeah, but yeah, like you said, man, like it's a Bethesda game, and one thing that you can say about Bethesda, they are different from other RPGs. Like I say, like I'm just gonna like. Say that in like especially Skyrim, your NPCs and the characters, they mill around, they have lives, they do things, they're not in the same place.
All on schedule.
Yeah. So like if I can compare it to Mass Effect, where NPCs are static, they stay in the same place, they don't move. It's like they're just there so you can get quests. They have no other lives, no other things to be doing.
To be clear, we're not hating on Mass
No,
Effect. We both adore Mass Effect.
I fucking love, like, especially classic BioWare. I love them. Were my favorite developers, not so much anymore. But they have families. Like some of them, like they've got married, they've got wife and kids, and
they've got belongings you can go into their house and steal.
And then you can see sometimes they even like they go out to work and work in fields, and you should see them wandering around, just like, hey, what are you doing there? When it's unique, and it's what we love about. Of course, there's going to be bugs in it, but that's a Bethesda game. But overall, my thoughts were positive. But like, let's discuss like what people were saying, like the negativity and the comparisons, and I knew this was going to happen, no matter how some people built this game up in their minds as something like extraordinary, like, you know what I mean? Like, because this is their flagship, like this is their new IP. People are curious about it, but a lot of people sort of built this up differently in their heads. And I've watched a few videos of people with their reactions to like YouTubers who I like, and they have a lot of like good stuff to say. A lot of it was, some of it was negative. There's always a but, and which is fair enough. But the videos tend to be like 10% positive and 90% shitting on it, and be going, I'm worried for the future of this game. This is not good. I just can't understand why. Again, I'm gonna like beat this dead horse, man. I just think it's because it is now an Xbox exclusive. I think that's one of the reasons. People will say, no, it's not because of the Xbox. Fallout 77. I'm like, you can't use that. Fallout 77. It's a completely different game. Yeah, that was a shit show, but it's not. They tried something, and they tried to do something
completely different game with a completely different focus by mostly a different team. I think that was mostly the Austin team that made that, not the Maryland team.
Yeah, I mean, I like people saying
apparently now it's quite good. Like the people that play it, it's got a really dedicated community, and they love it.
It's like with the No Man's Sky comparisons that got shitted on when it came out, and now it's a completely different game. So like,
and again, the people that love it really love it.
Yeah, they really love it. So,
or Sea of Thieves.
Sea of Thieves is a prime example. It's
30 million players or something.
A lot of people were hoping that would just crash and burn, but it hasn't. It's just, it was never a secret of how that game was going to be. They always say it was going to add content to it because it's a live service game. We're going to add content. It's going to build up. We're going to listen to fan feedback, and they do. They really do listen to fan feedback. They implement these changes. Some of them work, some don't, but they do listen. They're one of those rare, or one of those developers that do listen. They cherish like fans' comments on it and criticisms and ways to improve the game. They listen. They do, and that's really like important because they want to please their players, and they want to entice more players to it. So it's good for them. But again, I mean, people saying that this is going to not be a good game. They seem to be pointing out all these like faults with past Bethesda games. And I don't think it would have been so bad if it was coming out on all platforms. I think because it's coming out on just Xbox.
There's certainly a helping of sour grapes, given that, like, and you've seen it with Redfall as well. Like, people are like, Arcane are amazing, Arcane don't miss, and then this was announced, and like, it's going to be shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, part of that is because they're doing a multiplayer game for the first time, even though they've said, like, and even from like Harvey Smith did an interview with IGN just after the showcase, and from everything he said, it sounds like it's a single player game first, but then if you want to play with friends, and you can get kind of crazy with it. There is a certain degree of like, the console I prefer doesn't get these games anymore, so now I'm going to shit on them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's definitely a factor. Like, obviously, not every kind of negativity around it is down to that. Like, there are these are games we still haven't seen much of, so it's a little bit of cynicism isn't unwarranted.
Yeah, I mean,
but sitting there going, this is going to be shit, is not the same kind of thing.
I mean, I get, like when it's just directly saying it's going to be shit, I'm like, no, it's not. It's not going to be bad. even Fallout 4 was like their least favorable, their least well-reviewed game. And that
No,
was
it
still,
reviewed really well.
oh, it reviewed
It's
really
like
well.
84 MC or something.
Okay. But even that still, like, a lot of people didn't like it. Maybe they didn't. They said they didn't like the protagonist being voiced.
Yeah, I like that, to be honest.
I prefer that, to be honest, but that's just because like I play BioWare games and all those types of Witcher and stuff, and I never really liked the silent protagonist. I always thought it was good for the time because of maybe limited technology and stuff like that. But now I kind of want my protagonist to be voiced. It kind of puts me off when they're not. It just mute.
It just seems
Mute.
weird.
Yeah, it's just really.
I replayed Half-Life 2 a couple of years back, I think. I hadn't played it since it came out in 2004, and it was just fucking weird with people just talking at you and you just standing there mute. It was just.
How did
I'm
you
not a
get?
fan. We've
How
talked
did?
about this before. This
Yeah,
specific
yeah,
topic. Neither of us are fans of like a mute
yeah,
protagonist.
yeah. I mean, how did you get through MIT if you couldn't speak, man? Jesus Christ!
How did he navigate through all these
Yeah.
experiments
But
if he
like,
couldn't speak to his colleagues?
I think like one of the criticisms for Starfield was the frame rate. They said that the frame rate struggled to make 30 frames per second, and I don't know if that was a conscious decision to tie the game at 30 to have it at 4K, the visuals. I don't know if that was a decision that they made. Like Todd Howard did that, so I want it to look great, but the frames will have to be max 30. And it struggled. Sometimes it looked like it struggled to hit 30. That was a valid criticism, but it looked great. I mean, having it at 4K looked fantastic, man. If you watch it at
It looks so clean.
really good. But yeah,
Yeah,
I saw
Todd
the
Howard
frame.
has said that before, that he generally prefer like higher visual fidelity over higher frame rates, so it's not a surprise. But I am hoping there will be a 60 FPS mode at least. Like most games these days, you get to at least two modes, like 30 FPS and a 60 FPS with like lowered settings or lowered res or something. So I'd imagine we will.
Yeah,
I think Todd will be pushing the 30 FPS mode as the way it's meant to be played.
I mean,
But yeah, that's a valid criticism. Like if the game looks
yeah.
a bit ropey in performance, that's fair. But it's also fair to point out that it's not out for at least probably another year. Like it's first half of 23, so it could be this time next year it comes out.
Yeah. I don't think anyone commented on. I've not really heard it, but this is not a criticism. This is a positive. I really like the music I heard. The music I heard
sounds great.
really good.
And that's because it's in on Zur. That's why it sounds so good.
So, like, how come no one? Like, I was like, wow, the music's really good. How come no one's talking about how really like good the music is? It sounds like a grand, like, sort of sci-fi opera,
space opera.
Yeah, I was like, no one's commented on the music. Like, everyone's like seems to be commenting on like the gameplay. I was like, yeah, that's great, but the music's really good. Like, this game's gonna sound fantastic, man.
Yeah, the Xbox thread on Reset Era has been talking about the music for the last year,
right?
Because they've put out music samples here and there, and then they did. I can't remember if it was the showcase last year or if it was Game Awards last year, but they did like a small philharmonic performance. And filmed it and put it on. It's on YouTube. You can go and watch it. I think it's like 10, 15 minutes long.
I think I will.
Like the Starfield suite, I think it is. And so yeah, like people in the Xbox thread on Reset Era have been talking about it for the last year. How amazing the music's going to be. And yeah, it's Inon Zur who did tons of BioWare stuff. Like I think he did all of the Dragon Age games. So yeah, it's gonna be good. Like they couldn't use the guy that Jeremy Soule again that does like the Elder Scrolls stuff because he did a bad.
He did a music for a BioWare game, didn't he, Jeremy Soule?
Did he?
Pretty sure. I think it might be Knights of the Old Republic. I might be wrong. I'm pretty sure. Maybe he didn't actually.
No, he had some very worrying allegations against him a year or two ago. So they clearly weren't going to use him again. And Inon Zur was a good pick, I think, because he's done just some really damn good stuff.
Yeah. But Yeah, like the music's good. What did you think of the actual gunplay? I know that's been a criticism.
Do you
People
know what it
didn't.
reminded me of?
What? What it reminds you of?
Especially like in the indoor bits, it reminded me
Right.
of Destiny.
Right. I've never played that, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure why really. It doesn't
Mm,
look like it plays all that much like Destiny. I think it's just because of the UI is like really clean, like sharp lines and stuff, and Destiny's UI is quite similar. And then inside there was lots of like shiny metals and like reflected lights
mm.
and stuff. It just kind of, I immediately thought, oh, Destiny. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, the gunplay looks good. Like the Fallout games, Fallout 3's gunplay wasn't great. Fallout 4's was competent. I thought it was
Well,
decent.
that's why because everyone relied on the VATS aiming on the Fallout games.
Mm,
So that's why that was a lot of people use that, and I'm glad they don't have the mechanic like that in Starfield, because obviously you want to get away from that. That's a Fallout thing, leave that to Fallout. Have Starfield be its own sort of entity.
yeah.
But
It doesn't look like it's the best shooter in the world, but it looks perfectly good. Like, it looks
yeah, I mean, like, I prefer that
good.
because I like Mass Effect 1, and that's the shooting on that one great. And in the later games, they seem to focus more on gunplay than they did on that sort of being an RPG.
Mm,
So I'm cool with that. I'm like, yeah, I'm quite happy with that. That they're not focusing that much on gunplay. I want it to be like a space RPG, like the first Mass Effect was, then
yeah,
being a shooter like the later Mass Effect 1 games were. I mean, don't get me wrong, like Mass Effect 2 had it quite like, a nice balance, but obviously they stripped back so much RPG mechanics from that. It was just like I'm playing like a completely different sort of game. Um, I didn't fall in love with Mass Effect 1 because of the gunplay. I fell in love with it because of the characters and the story. That's what I fell in love with. So I'm glad that if the gunplay's not that great, I'm glad, because I can play a shooter. I've got tons of those first party, third party shooters I can play with. So
yeah.
I'm cool
Microsoft
with that.
got that shit on
Yeah.
lock.
I mean, like I'm going to again bring up a criticism. People saying, oh, when they fired the guns, it didn't look like the enemies were reacting to being hit.
Yeah, I call bullshit on that because there was at least one part when they're like there's a fight on a like a landing pad.
Mhm.
You see them shoot one of the enemies in the back, and
Oh
they
yeah,
react to every shot, and then their backpack explodes and they go
right.
flying up into the air.
Yeah.
So I'm calling bullshit on
Do you
that.
think that's just like a big nitpick that some people are pointing out?
It is kind of it's the go-to complaint if someone wants to complain about shooting in a game. Oh, it doesn't look like it's impactful, and
Mm,
you don't know how impactful it feels until you actually got the game in your hands yourself. Like Destiny does things quite well, but it relies on very specific headshot stuff. So like every enemy class has kind of like a different headshot animation.
mhm.
So it just when you headshot an enemy, it just feels really satisfying because of the way like you get like a specific kind of animation. But that doesn't necessarily mean like the shots are any more impactful or anything. It just means they've put some thought into like how the game feeds back your shots to you. So I don't know. I feel like that's just the go-to. Oh Jesus! Hold on, I'll be right with you. Go. Yeah, I remember not to touch the cable of these shitty cameras. But yeah, I feel like it's just like the go-to complaint when someone wants to say they don't like the look of the shooting. It's just it doesn't look impactful. It doesn't like they're reacting to your shots. I don't think you can really tell until you're playing it yourself. So we'll find out when the game comes out. But I think it looked good.
Mm.
Like as far as shooting in an RPG goes, it looked perfectly fine.
Yeah, man, I agree. When they said that, I was like, really, really? Oh man, I was like, they're just looking for anything to criticize. If it's a valid criticism on like the 30 frames like dropping, that's fair. I agree. I was like, when I saw that, I was like, oh, struggling a bit there. Even though like I don't really look at stuff like that, I did notice it. But oh, I forgot what I was going to say now.
I will say that
Fuck.
I never even think about like performance drops in like demos in showcases
Yeah.
because you're always looking at something that's months old even at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time the game comes out, the build you saw is probably a year old. So
Yeah.
it's not worth worrying about it at that point. If it comes out and it's still doesn't perform well, then it's worth worrying about, sure. But
Yeah.
when you're looking at in development code, it's just really not worth getting hung up on.
What do you think about these No Man's Skies comparisons then? That's what I've been hearing, like people saying it's just No Man's Skies, it's Skyrim in space, which is
No
not
Man's
that.
Skyrim.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think it is, because there's not set in a Nord country, in using swords and shields. But yeah, what do you think about this? I knew that was going to happen as soon as I saw the mining, the gameplay mechanic.
Yeah.
I knew. I
mean,
like,
that
shit.
is like, when I say that is straight out of No Man's Sky, but it's not like No Man's Sky is the first game with survival mechanics where you have to harvest materials to build stuff to survive. That's a whole genre unto itself. But yeah, I completely get where people are coming from with that, because that's the first thing I thought as well. And I was in a WhatsApp group, and I was like, "Oh, it's No Man's Sky with a budget," and they were all like, "Yeah, I was just thinking that." But it's it's not going to be that. There probably will be. I don't know if at launch, but there will be at some point a survival mode, because that is something Bethesda have added to their games, because the games can actually support it. But it's not that. It's a open world RPG. It's going to have a proper Bethesda story, factions, and all that stuff, which No Man's Sky is pretty light on. No Man's Sky is much more about sort of the survival and exploration stuff. And obviously I think that'll be a factor. I mean, obviously exploration is a big part of what Bethesda does too. So that'll be a factor. Survival, there'll either be a mod for it, or Bethesda will do it themselves at some point down the line. But yeah, I think they're going to end up being fairly different games, because they have different focuses and vastly different resources. But one thing I will say is, I played No Man's Sky at launch. I bought it on PS4, and the first time you repair your ship and you take off and you fly out through the atmosphere into space was pretty breathtaking. And you can't do that in Starfield. You can't just fly onto a planet and then fly off.
That was a conscious decision.
Yeah, I think it's a shame, but it's not the end of the world.
Maybe they need the core planets because I don't think the core planets that is tied to the story is going to be. It's not going to be procedurally generated like No Man's Sky. Some of the planets. Speaking of which, Todd Howard did say there's going to be 1,000 planets, which is another big concern. People are like, I think that's too big. It's too much.
Well, I mean, they'd probably know if it was too much, but better than people just watching a stream. Like, if they're doing it, then they think they can do it. And they've always used procedural generation. They use that to generate the landform, and then they go in and like decorate it by hand, basically.
Don't they use that for like quests as well on Skyrim?
It's, the Radiant quests.
Radiant. It just keeps coming. That's why people are, it doesn't seem to end. But yeah, that's because it's Radiant, like you say.
But yeah, people going, oh no, he said procedural generation, that means it's going to be rubbish. They've always used procedural generation. That's how they build their worlds. They use that to generate the land, and then they go and pretty it up by hand and make it more handcrafted. So it's not quite the same thing where like No Man's Sky just has a database of stuff and just pulls stuff out and throws it together. It's not like that. So if they feel they can do 1,000 planets, then it's up to them to prove it. Like, they wouldn't be doing it if they thought it was going to be shit.
I mean, maybe because people have bad experiences with like games being too overly ambitious, that they want it to be sort of tight.
Yeah, but then going to a Bethesda RPG for that is the wrong place to be looking for it.
Yeah. They
are ambitious games.
Yeah.
They're big games, and this is a space game from Bethesda. It's always going to be a very big game. It would have been crazy if they had like 4 planets in the game.
I mean, Mass Effect had loads of planets as well. And like, they were small planets, but you could land on quite a lot of them. I mean, there weren't much in them. There was just like some huts
the odd
and
Prothean
shit.
artifact, some prefab huts.
Yeah, and like some
Threshamore or 2.
Yeah, I still liked it, and I going around on the Malco, driving around apparently. I never got why people said that handled badly. I was like, I never had a big issue with it. I always used to be able to handle it pretty well.
It's the same thing with people complaining about how the Warthog handles in Halo. I'm like, I don't think there's a vehicle in a first-person shooter that handles better.
Yeah, I mean,
anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like you can customize your ship, like fully customize it, which I'm looking forward to. You can craft it in a way you want it to. There'll be you can make your own bases and stuff like that.
I think that's the logical endpoint of the base building from Fallout 4 was like build your own ship. I'm like, okay, I will. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I didn't really care about the base building in Fallout 4, but if you let me build my own spaceship, I'm there for that.
Yeah, I never really got into that building your own base. I couldn't. Maybe I was just shit at it. But some of the people, you've seen some of the buildings they made,
crazy stuff,
absolutely fucking
like
insane.
stringing up like full electric systems and everything all around it. It's mad.
I mean, I think that was probably the standout for like a lot of people in Fallout 4 was you could build it and it would work. You can like generate electricity and everything like that, and some of them look like palaces. I was like, I know what I can make is this little tin hut, but the roof didn't fit on it properly. I was just like, yeah, this is good. This is good.
Yeah, I always suck at base building stuff, but if you let me build a spaceship, I'm going to take my time and figure out what I can do with it. It's a friggin' spaceship.
Obviously, you have to mine for resources to be able to build your particular spaceship. But I'm really looking forward to it. And it has space combat as well. Space combat looks pretty good. Pretty good, man.
Yeah, it's got a bit of everything, this game. On for exploration, first-person shooter gameplay, RPG quests, faction story, build your own spaceship, take off, shoot other spaceships out of the sky.
We got to meet some of the NPCs that you'll be meeting. And again, this is another criticism that people were going, it's the Dead Eyes thing. It's got the Bethesda Dead Eyes from the NPCs. And I was just like, have you guys never played a Bethesda game before? Come on, man. This is it's their engine. What was like
for Bethesda game, the NPCs look really damn good.
Yeah.
Compared against like other top of the line games, they don't look great, but it's a different kind of game.
It's a criticism with any game that uses like facial animation, even like games that have got great facial animation that use motion capture, like the latest the Quarry. There was criticisms for that as well. Like you got the vacant stare, you got that sort of look. So
I mean, it's hard to get that stuff right, and that's why so few studios do get it right, and they're all like top tier studios that put a ton of effort into that, like Naughty Dog. And like, if you ask me, the Coalition are up there.
That's a game that just gets overlooked, man. Number 5.
But they're different games with different focus. You could not do that like full performance capture in an open world RPG. It just would not be feasible. It would take you 30 years to make the game. It would cost billions, because that stuff takes a lot of time and a lot of like tweaking things by hand and a ton of resources. You can't do that in the kind of game Bethesda makes. And it's like, I always laugh when like you see, if their engine's so shit, why don't they just switch to Unreal? It's like, their engine isn't shit. Their engine does what they want it to do. It just doesn't do what you want it to do. Like, they could switch to Unreal and the game would probably look better, but you'd lose everything else that makes it a Bethesda game.
Or you could be like EA and just force your studios to use the Frostbite engine, even though it's not compatible. Like, they're like Dragon Age Inquisition. Here, use the Frostbite engine. How are we going to make this work? It's not really built for RPGs. Fucking make it work. Just get in there and make it work, you nerds.
This is what we pay you for, you goddamn nerds. Just make stuff. Make game work.
Yeah, make game work while I just sit in my office
counting dollars,
counting the monies. But yeah, man, like overall, did we know the name of the characters on all the promotional art? The blonde, she was in the trailer as well. You spoke to her. Has she got a name? Because they're using her a lot on promotional stuff.
I don't remember any of them being named.
No, they didn't name. So she's unnamed at the moment, but she is on the a lot of the promotional artwork and stuff.
The art looks great.
Yeah, and I don't know if she's going to play a more dominant
I'd imagine she's like
specific
a
role.
faction leader or something.
Mm,
And maybe she's the head of Constellation or something.
yeah, I mean, I would. I don't know. This is because this is a Bethesda game, and I'm thinking of it from like a BioWare sort of way, where you have party squad mates with you, and they're not going to have that in Starfield. But
I mean, they probably will.
yeah,
Skyrim and Fallout do.
yeah, but they're followers
You can
though.
only
It's
take
not
you can only take
really
one with
one at
you
a time.
time.
Yeah, and it doesn't tie into. You can bring whoever you want. It doesn't really tie into story. They're just there to carry stuff and back you up in combat.
Pack mule.
Yeah, and it's not like if you bring like characters like I'm comparing it to BioWare again, but where you bring squad mates with you and they sort of have a part to play in the story. So a lot of them you have to bring to certain key story parts because it's tied into their personal quest or story thread.
I don't conflicts between them like Jack and Miranda in
Yeah, I
ME2.
mean like stuff like that, but I don't think they're going to do that. But I hope, yeah, they probably will be able to just recruit someone and they'll sort of follow you around and sprout some words every now and again. Like, I know they did that in Fallout. I wonder if they're going to have romance options again, like they did in Fallout 4, which is very not greatly done in Fallout 4. I remember that was in Fallout 4, but overall, man, like I thought Starfield was pretty good. I can't wait to get my hands on it, man. And there was a lot of negativity, which I knew there was going to be, unless this thing was like the second coming of Jesus. People were gonna like criticize it no matter what. And
listen, it could be the best looking game of all time, and people would still find something to criticize.
Yeah,
just because like I say, there's a lot of sour grapes around this game at the moment because it's not coming to one particular platform. And again, I'm not saying that's like the entirety of it. There are certainly valid concerns to have, which I think we've both talked about a fair bit. But there is a certain degree of, it's an Xbox exclusive now, so I'm just going to shit on it. And to be fair, that happens for every platform. Like, you'll get people shitting on PlayStation exclusives. You'll get people shitting on Nintendo exclusives. I'm not saying it only happens one way, but I'm saying, that is a factor in the negativity around it. There's
another game that this got compared to, and it's not even released yet. It's still in beta. Was Star Citizen. A lot of people are saying now it looks quite similar to Star Citizen, even though that's, I don't know where the fuck that's like in terms of being released. That's still being.
I think they recently passed the $400 million funding mark, because that game is crowdfunded.
Wow. Holy shit! And it looks good though.
I can't remember if it was Kickstarter, but they had an initial funding round and made tons of money, and the people just continue to give money to it.
It's been like 6 or 7 years though, isn't it?
At least I would think it's been a long time. Let's have a look. The game was announced on October 18th, 2012 through a successful Kickstarter campaign. Yeah, 2012.
2012. 360 was still about, and that was the dominant console.
10 years ago.
But yeah, man. That was the anything else you want to say before we move on?
Blizzard had a bit of a presence.
Okay, we'll talk.
Surprising.
Yeah, we'll just talk about that and go over. So yeah, you wanted to say Blizzard? What they got?
Yeah, surprisingly, they had quite a big presence, which I don't think people were expecting, because obviously the Activision Blizzard purchase hasn't closed yet, and probably won't for potentially another year at this point. But yeah, they showed up and had quite a lengthy showing of both Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4, which was quite surprising. And got a date for Overwatch 2, which is October 4th, and it's going to be free to play. I'm excited about that, because I loved Overwatch for like 2 years, and then everyone I knew stopped playing it. So yeah, it kind of like,
it was a massive, like when it came out, huge, and it kind of like died down. Not many people talk about it. It's still big in the esports world, but in terms of like general chit chat, not many people.
Yeah, they had a crazy content drought. They just couldn't get content out fast enough to keep people's interest. And they're going to have to work even harder at that now. It's free to play. But apparently they've like massively staffed up and completely restructured the Overwatch team. So hopefully they can actually manage it this time.
They've got a new hero as well, right?
Yeah, Junker Queen. Looks pretty
Australian.
Fun.
It seems like when they release an Australian character, it's always got to be like the Mad Max archetype. Like, what the fuck?
They already had that. Junkrat is basically that as well, and he's Australian.
Yeah, they do.
They from the same background.
They've done that in Apex Legends. There's 2 Australian characters, and they're both like a Mad Max prototype. I was like, oh.
That's like the only cultural touchstones most people have of Australia. Mad Max and Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah, I was just like, oh. But it's kind of like when we do Brits, it's there is a Brit in Overwatch, isn't there? The Tracer. Yeah, you're right, love. And everyone thought that was a fake accent. I was like, no, the voice actress is British.
She's British. She's just not from London.
No, right. Maybe that's why.
That's why it doesn't quite sound right.
Yeah, it's like I think like the British, especially the London accent, got butchered. Especially when old Dick Van Dyke did the Mary Poppins thing, that just absolutely got destroyed. But yeah, Diablo 4 new character class as well. The Necromancer. They look really good.
Coming back from D2. But yeah, it looks very Diablo 2. Is what it looks like. You just look at it and go, yeah, it looks like a new Diablo 2.
A lot of people were disappointed with number 3. They said it got a bit too
World of Warcrafty. Yeah. It looked very like cartoony. Still a really damn fun game, but it was kind of, I hesitate to say streamlined, but it was kind of streamlined a bit, dumbed down as some people would say. But he changed the way a lot of things work. But it felt faster paced and more arcadey, and I quite liked that. But we'll see where 4 lands. If it can be kind of like a healthy middle ground between the two, that would be pretty cool. But yeah, it looks really good visually. And you also had
was that your stomach?
Might have been.
Are you hungry?
Not even slightly.
You want to get a sandwich or something?
But yeah, we also had Rod Ferguson turn up again, which was kind of funny. He used to be a head of the coalition making gears, and then he left to go to Blizzard to work on Diablo, and then now he's showing up again in a Microsoft, in an Xbox showcase, and he'll be an Xbox employee again. Can
you imagine that? He's just like, oh, shit.
Same with Mike Ibarra. Mike Ibarra went from Xbox to Blizzard like a year before Rod did. Now they're both going to be back.
Yeah. But overall,
quite a big presence there, surprisingly, given it hasn't closed yet. And then one last thing that also had quite a big presence was Riot.
Oh yeah, shit, Riot.
Kind of popped into my head when I thought of Blizzard.
League of Legends. Of them
as the new Blizzard.
League of Legends.
But yeah, all their stuff coming to PC Game Pass.
I mean, I've never really been into League at all. I mean, I liked Arcane.
Arcane was great.
Yeah, the game itself, not much. And we always we have a friend who played it, and he's just said, just don't get into it. It's so toxic. The player base is just so bad. He says that I never had so much abuse flung my way, because new players, they don't want new players, especially if you cost them the game. So you got to be pretty good at that game. I mean, I don't think it's very new player friendly. So yeah,
it's huge though. It's free to play, and it's like hundreds of millions of players or something. But yeah, you got League of Legends, Legends of Runeterra, Teamfight Tactics, Valorant all come into PC Game Pass, and you get all of the champions, heroes, and agents and everything unlocked from the get-go, which is kind of huge. So that may well push a lot of people to PC Game Pass, to be honest, just because you get everything unlocked. Valorant I'm kind of interested in, because I got a lot of comparisons to Overwatch, which as I said, I loved for about 2-3 years, but I don't think I want to play that on PC. I'll get fucking slaughtered.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a pretty big pretty big announcement, I think. But then other than that, we had a lot of other games like Playtale Requiem gameplay looked fantastic. We were doing a Let's Play of the first game, which got curtailed by the lockdown. We still haven't finished it. Josh Sawyer at Obsidian's new game, Pentiment, smaller game, like medieval murder mystery, which looked very interesting. Definitely did not look how I expected it to look. A lot of indies, as we often get. Just
How many
loads of stuff.
how many games are Obsidian working on now? Ever since they got
4
Microsoft money, they're just like working on so many games, man. Just like,
Grounded, which also showed up and got a 1.0 date. Avowed, Pentiment, and The Outer Worlds 2.
I mean, like they always used to struggle to get games out, and now they're just working on like 4 vastly different games as well. So yeah,
I'm sad Avowed didn't turn up because I want to see
yeah.
Avowed.
I wanted to talk about that before we go into our next subject. There was a lot of games that were missing, and what were you particularly looking for? Like you said, Avowed, and anything else?
I was hoping Wolfenstein 3 would turn up because we don't know.
Oh, that got teased as well. So I think I saw something online about that.
People are almost like fully expecting it, and it just wasn't there. But Machine Games' last game, Wolfenstein 2 came out in 2017, 5 years ago now, and then they co-developed Youngblood with Arcane, and that came out in 2019. So they must have been doing something for the last 3 years, and obviously the Indiana Jones game was announced in early 21?
Yeah, I want to say 21. Yeah,
and they said at the time it was very early in development, so they can't have been working on that since finishing Youngblood.
Can I ask you something? Do you reckon that'll be Xbox exclusive?
Yeah, I reckon so.
I reckon it will be now. And a lot of people have been saying that Xbox should double down on exclusivities, and you know.
I mean, generally, I've been like, I'm not really that fussed. When it comes to Game Pass is enough for me, but recent events that I'm sure we'll go into in a minute.
Yes.
Now I'm kind of like, fuck it, lock it all down.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, I mean,
Anything you were expecting?
The thing is, like, because Xbox have got so many bloody studios now, you just
Hellblade 2.
They got so many now and so many games in development that we know of that everyone was expecting it to be all shown at this showcase. There was that not leaked, but a fake like lineup, and you see some of the games on there, you're just like, oh boy, that looks pretty good. But basically, that was just like a fanfic sort of like fake lineup. It looked good though. But one of the things that I thought was going to be announced, and it's been teased and it's been pretty much confirmed, was the GoldenEye remake, because there's even achievements that's out there. It's not a thing that it's not it is rumor.
Something that exists.
It's something that exists, and I thought they would show something, but yeah, that didn't get shown. I think a few people were expecting it to be shown because obviously the achievements got leaked, and I thought they would have just jumped on it and go, here. You know, it's like they was going to show a little clip or something, but nothing.
Yeah, I feel like they're just going to randomly announce that in August because it will be the 25th anniversary of the game in August.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're just going to be like, here's a blog post and here's the game, you can play it now, kind of deal.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like you say, Avowed, Fable, but that's still, I think that's ages away. I think that's still such a long way off to anything being shown. Perfect Dark, maybe something, but I think Phil is he's so. I think rumor was he was so frustrated about past Xbox showcases where they just show pre-rendered gameplay, pre-rendered CGI cinematics, that he was like, no, I want gameplay. If you haven't got anything to show, no gameplay. I don't want it at this showcase. So obviously that's been the main mandate now, because that's been a criticism of a lot of Xbox's past showings. They go, yeah, they announce games, but we want to see gameplay. And now feels like if you ain't got any gameplay, don't show it. All right?
Don't knock on my door.
Yeah. So yeah, but it's still quite a lot that Xbox have got going that we don't know of or we haven't been shown. So it's still like I said before, I feel like I've had an entree, the appetizers, and I'm just waiting for the main course, the steak and potatoes sort of thing. You know what I mean? I've gone to a fancy restaurant and I've spent a lot of
a lovely
money,
starter.
and then just kicked us out afterwards. You know, left us a big fat bill, and I'm just like, but I didn't get my main course. I didn't get any dessert either. But yeah, man, overall, I'll stand by my assessment, which is like a 6.5. Good, some good highlights in it, some good standouts. But like I say, with the amount of stuff that they got brewing at the moment, I just kind of wanted to see more. But I understand why they didn't show it.
Yeah, I think the main thing is, like, as Sarah Bond said in her segment, we're going to show you you're only going to show you games that are coming out in the next 12 months. And I get it. You want to know what's kind of imminent, but you also, like, that necessarily then means you can't show stuff like Fable and Perfect Dark and Avowed and whatever else that might be a bit further out but might still demo really well. I think they need to have more than one show a year at this point, given how many studios they've got.
Yeah,
they can't be just doing like a 90-minute show once a year.
Yeah,
it's not enough.
They got to do like a Nintendo Direct and State of Play and have more than one showcase.
I mean, even if they just do like the XO like they were doing before the pandemic in like November, do that and do one in June. Two would be fine. 2 a year would be better than it is now. Waiting an entire year for a 90-minute show, and you're like, oh, I didn't get to see the game I was waiting a year to see. But at least if you're doing one every 6 months, it's not as crazy.
I mean, I kind of was like thinking, I was kind of hoping for like I think we kind of got it with the Kojima announcement, but I kind of wanted like a out of left field sort of announcement, maybe something with like Platinum. Maybe they'll go, oh, we're gonna because there was rumors. Well, the developer of Scalebound, the guy who was making it, the cancel game, he's interested in reviving that IP. I kind of want that something like that. They're going, oh, we're gonna bring this back because they're willing to do it, and like Phil's trying to make inroads with Japanese developers. I just kind of wish they. Oh, I knew it wasn't going to happen, but it would have been exciting if they did announce that reviving Scalebound or something in that sort of vein.
Yeah, something like that, or maybe like we're working with Sakaguchi again. His Lost Odyssey 2, something like that.
Or maybe like it, because they had like you say, Lost Odyssey 2 and Blue Dragon, something like that, like
proper Megaton.
Yeah, but and people were hoping for maybe Fallout Vegas, New Vegas remake or 2 sequel for that, but that didn't happen. But it just shows you how much they got going on, that a lot of people were left wanting more and wanted so much more announcements, that you think the future looks good for them. It looks strong because they're showing only a fraction of their power. So yeah, it looks good, man. I'm looking forward to it. But
future's good. We just need to get there.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, I think we're kind of rushing it. We're just like, we want more. It's like, no, you got to slow down, man. You don't want a bad product now. You know, we don't want to rush anything. We want to get rid of this crunch culture as well that some studios have been suffering from. So yeah, take your time. We'll be here and we'll be waiting. But there was another, not a massive showcase. We mentioned it earlier, the Final Fantasy VII 25th anniversary stream, which I did a reaction video for as well. And there was a lot of people. There was some tease beforehand about a game that got announced. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the another big announcement that we thought was going to happen, but it didn't, was the Final Fantasy remake being announced for Xbox. It was announced for a new platform, but it wasn't the platform everyone was expecting.
Well, it was, but people People
Yeah,
were expecting it for Steam and Xbox
sorry, like say, yeah, it was, but
because it
the
was actually on the
eh,
exact day that Epic's 6-month
yeah,
exclusivity ran out. So people were literally expecting both Steam and Xbox, and only
yeah.
Steam heard of
Maybe I
it.
should rephrase that. There wasn't a platform that was expected to be announced on. It didn't get announced on, and that was Xbox. That exclusivity deal has ran out last year sometime, and it got, even with the Intergrade, it got extended, and now that ran out, and now we still haven't got anything. So something tells me that Sony have PlayStation have thrown more money at it to keep it off that platform for this um, sequel
Well,
that's been
for
announced.
who knows how
Yeah,
long.
I
That's
mean,
the
who knows?
problem.
Like, it could be for the whole trilogy, because it's been announced that it's going to be a three-parter. Rebirth is the next part, and then who knows what the next part's going to be called, Regurgitate or something. But yes, it's probably going to be kept.
Re-money hatted.
It's probably going to be like kept off for the entire trilogy, and maybe after like that, they'll come onto Xbox, but maybe even then it won't. But let's talk about that, man. What's your feelings? Because I know a lot of people were pretty upset. But when I say a lot of people, I want to say fans. The general media
Don't give a shit.
didn't mention it at all. So
So we did a big spoiler cast when we both finished part 1 on PS4. And it's no surprise that I didn't really like the game very much. Like, there were bits I liked. I think they absolutely nailed the characters, and like the opening of the game is really strong. But then there's just so much shit. Like, you could cut that game in half and massively improve it. So I'm not generally that fussed about it coming to Xbox, because I kind of thought it was shit anyway. But
wow,
the fact that it didn't,
wow, wow.
because as I say, literally everyone was expecting it to be announced, because it was a year-long PS4 exclusive. It says it on the box. The box is on my shelf right there. It says on the box when that deal ran out. That deal ran out, and then they announced Intergrade, and it was announced that it was running for another 6 months. That deal ran out in December or January. Still nothing happened. Then Epic announced they were getting it, and they had a 6-month exclusivity on it, which ran out 3 days ago as of recording this, which was when the stream was, which is why everyone was expecting it to come to Steam. But everyone was also expecting it to come to Xbox at the same time. So I went into that stream thinking, yeah, it's going to be announced. Pretty sure it'll be announced. And when it wasn't, it honestly just soured the entire rest of the stream for me. Like, I just mentally checked out of the rest of it. I sat there and watched it, but I felt really pissed off, to be honest.
Yeah,
And again, I'm not even that fussed about the game.
yeah. I know you weren't a big fan of it.
I felt
Yeah,
really,
I
I
don't.
was very much like, oh, go fuck yourself,
Yeah,
Square
I
Enix.
don't know if you watched my reaction video, but there was a moment when I just was like, "Oh, it's not coming out on
Yeah, I
Xbox,"
watched it.
and I sort of sat back. I was like, "Okay, I don't really care now what you're doing," because no, I've played it and I quite liked it. I played it already. I'm not one of those guys that go, "Oh, I'm going to wait until it comes out on Xbox." It would have been good for it to come out on Xbox. I think it would have been fair for it to come out on Xbox. It was supposed to come out on Xbox, but I mean, I'm not saying it's supposed to, but it should be coming out on Xbox. But there's been another deal being made behind closed doors. Some money's been thrown at Square. I doubt if Xbox haven't made an offer. It'd be stupid not to.
Well, yeah, there's no way in hell they haven't approached them to say, can we have this game? Absolutely no way in hell.
Who was the chap who announced who was doing the live stream? What was his name?
Yoshinori Kitase.
Yeah, I remember he was doing it, and then when he did the announcement for when it come out on Steam, he looked. I don't know if it was me, but I sense he looked a bit like not uncomfortable, like it was underwhelming. He was like, Steam.
I kind of hate how he was like, we hope this release will bring
Yeah,
it to even more people. And you're like, okay, I know people don't like the Epic Game Store, but it's been on PC for 6 fucking months.
Mm-hmm.
Like, bringing it to another platform would bring it to more people.
I mean, yeah, I'm not a big fan of Epic, but I have the Epic launcher, so I can play it on PC if I wanted to. But having it like completely off another console or platform is pretty. Yeah, it's not good for the consumer and for the player base. But
It
like I said,
fucking sucks, is what it
you know,
is. Like deals like this should. I can't remember the last time there was a deal like this where it was a known duration and then it just never happened and nobody talks about it. Like it's like nobody's allowed to talk about it. It's like, yeah, we know the deal's up, but don't ask us about it. Don't talk about it.
well, it's the kind of thing like I went online to see what the reaction will be, and obviously, like a lot of fans were tweeting at Square, going, "What about the Xbox version? What about the Xbox version?" No other like media outlet was like going. They announced the release of the Crisis Core remake,
Which
or
just compounded the bullshit because
yeah,
that is coming to
that's
Xbox.
coming out
Like,
on Xbox and
what?
Switch as well.
Why?
That's just like, so the prequel's coming out, and I know some people are like, well, it's that's a prequel of the original storyline. I was like, yeah, the better story, like, because like the remakes, spoiler, are like they follow it to a certain part, and then it's just completely like it's divergent and stuff, which I got a feeling a Rebirth is gonna like sort of, it's definitely going to retcon some of the most important parts of Final Fantasy. Probably for the, maybe some people think for the better. I think it's a detriment to the story and to the character arcs of a lot of those character arcs of a lot of those characters. But yeah, no one's mentioning. I didn't see any big like websites saying, yeah, there'll be no Xbox version. Why is that? Stuff like that. Just they were just talking about like the Rebirth and the new the remaster. I don't think it's even a remake, is it? Of Crisis Core. So I mean, what did you think of the Crisis Core remake then?
It's kind of in a weird middle ground between looking
It looked,
actually pretty good and looking actually pretty bad.
I thought it
Like
looked
they've
like
replaced a lot of
shit.
models. Like the mod, I mean, like compared to how it looked on the PSP, it looks good, but you can tell they've just kind of like replaced some models, and it's the same. The
Can,
battle
can
system looks different, obviously, but
can I say
it
I
doesn't look
quite like the
amazing.
way it looked on the PSP.
Yeah, it was a good looking game on the PSP, but I'm saying like from a technical standpoint, the remake looks a lot better, but it doesn't. It's not the. You can tell it's on a budget. Let's say that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's why Sony was just like, well, I'm not gonna money out this one.
That's the thing.
Mm.
At this point, I'm pretty sure that the only Square Enix games that come to Xbox are ones that Sony doesn't want to pay for,
Mm, pretty
and
much, yeah.
that's a really shit situation to be in.
Mm,
Especially as someone who's a big fan. Like we talked about this before, I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan. I've got fucking Final Fantasy inspired tattoos. I've got like right behind me there a bunch of like all the Final Fantasy 14 books and everything. Final Fantasy Ultimanias. And yes, I know it reached its peak of popularity on the PlayStation, but it's been a multi-platform series for a decade, and now it's sliding back into being associated with one platform, and that is not a positive thing for anyone other than Sony. So I'm not going to be like, if someone's going to be like, oh, it was always a PlayStation franchise, I don't give a shit. Like, first of all, it wasn't. It was on Nintendo to begin with, but it's been multi-platform for a decade, and that is a good thing. More people being able to play a game is a good thing. Like it's not a first-party exclusive. Sony aren't fucking making it and paying for it. They're paying to keep it away from other people, which sucks. And yes, everyone's done that. Xbox have done it in the past. They haven't really done that much in the last handful of years. And what they have done has been like really short exclusivity periods on much smaller games like the Medium. Last time they did do a big one, everyone, including the media, went fucking batshit crazy.
yeah.
Rise of the Tomb Raider was a fucking event.
It
That
was called
was
Anti-Kitsuma as well. I remember a lot of the media was saying.
the thing is, like after that was announced at Gamescom, whatever year it was, 2014, I think, that it was going to be timed exclusive to Xbox. Every interview was like, yeah, okay, game looks great. When's it coming to PlayStation? It's like, okay, fair enough. I'm not going to argue with that. Like, timed exclusivity deals suck. But where the fuck is that energy now with Final Fantasy VII Remake? Nobody from I don't recall anyone in the media ever asking at any point when that game's coming to Xbox.
No.
And now the deal is comprehensively up.
Mm.
It's well and truly over. Still nobody's asking. So, what's the deal there? What's with the double standard? Someone explain that to me.
Do you think that's... I don't know. I don't think that is the reason. But do you think maybe that could be... There was such a full-on when Rise of the Tomb Raider was made timed exclusive, and on Xbox, the media were going after the developers, asking them these questions. And now, because they're not doing it for the remake, they're sort of thinking it's not a big deal. I don't know. I don't know if they live in their own bubble, but maybe...
I definitely think they don't think it's a big deal. They're not interested in it. They don't think it's a story that needs to be covered. And that's kind of half the reason why it sucks. It's just, it's on PlayStation, who cares? It's on PlayStation, people can play it.
Yeah. But yes, it's not great. It kind of, it did. A lot of people saying they should boycott Square Enix products. No, don't.
What is there to boycott?
Don't do that. I mean, they sold off their a lot of their IPs now. Anyway, their Western IPs. So I don't know if they just don't give a shit. They're just probably just gonna focus on Final Fantasy, milk 7 for all it's worth. Maybe do that for when the remake of 8 and 9, or was it 9 supposed to be remade, happens. Maybe like Sony will money hack that. Not actually buy Square outright. They don't look like they're doing that, because if they were, they would have done it already.
Honestly, if they did that, that'd be less annoying.
I'd rather they. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'd rather them just buy them outright and just just definitively going to be PlayStation exclusives.
It's
instead of doing what they're doing now.
Yeah, it's all the not knowing what the hell's going on that is annoying. Like, if they came out and said, like, we've given Square $1 billion and this game is never going to come to Xbox, I'd be like, all right, fair enough. At least I know now. It's all the fucking cloak and dagger shit and all the silence around it that's annoying. And yeah, like I've said on this before, like the PS5 is the first Sony console I haven't owned, and I don't really have any interest in buying one at this point. If they bought Square Enix, I'd be like, I'll buy a PlayStation 5 then, because I want to play Square Enix games. But I'm not going to buy one for some third-party games that should, and maybe will, who knows, come to the platforms I already own. That's just kind of stupid.
Has that made you want to buy a PS5 now that the Rebirth is coming out on PS5?
It made me want to tell Square Enix to go fuck themselves, to be quite honest. That initial announcement in that stream, like I said, it completely killed the rest of the stream for me, and I just mentally checked out. I just didn't really give a shit about anything else they said after that point. And it sucks to feel like that, because I have 2 IPs in gaming that are my favourite IPs. Halo and Final Fantasy. Those are like the 2 top IPs for me. And now, in the last year or so, the only thing I feel around Final Fantasy, outside of Final Fantasy 14, is just annoyance. Like, that's what Square have done to one of my favourite franchises. It just made me feel annoyed when I think about it. Because I'm going to have to wait 6 months to play Final Fantasy 16, because they've given that as a 6-month timed exclusive to Sony, and then I can finally play it on PC. That sucks to have to wait 6 months to play a new entry.
I got a feeling they're going to do what they've done with 7 and extend that deal to keep it off Xbox and for Spoken as well. It's like they're cherry picking. Like, I reckon if they could have, like, they wanted to do like a Money Hat Starfield as well.
They were actively in talks to Money Hat Starfield. Yeah,
and I reckon if Xbox didn't buy Bethesda, they would have kept that off the Xbox, and the 2 current games, Ghostwire Tokyo, and what was the other one? Deathloop. They would have kept that off for a longer period, but obviously because they've been bought, they couldn't do that. But I reckon they would have extended it. I don't know. I'd never thought that before, but what they've done with remake, it kind of makes me think they would do it now. It's just the way they're sort of playing it now.
Yeah. I just think it sucks. Like, timed exclusivity sucks. If you want to own a game, buy the fucking studio, and then I won't complain about it. Like, if Sony announced tomorrow they were buying Square Enix, I'd be like, all right, I'm going to look for a PS5 now.
I don't think it would be financially viable, appealing for them to buy the studio outright. They just want to pick which games to money hat, and this works for them. It works for them, like for what they want to do. But yeah, it's not great, man. But there we are. So I think we're going to leave it on that sour note there, man. It's a shame for Xbox players. Who knows? Maybe something will develop in the future. I doubt it. If the time was to announce
I'm pretty sure at this point that game's never coming to Xbox.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm kind of disappointed that no other outlet, YouTube personality, basically anyone apart from Xbox fans have spoken out about it. It's just no one's talking about it, and it's a shame. And I guarantee if it was like another big, the Indiana Jones is one. If that's exclusive, which it should be, it's going to be a shitstorm. I reckon that people will be like talking about, you can't do that to Indiana Jones. But we'll see.
We'll see indeed.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.